Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to learn about catch-error and retry operators. We'll start with a basic example and then switch to other examples that use flattening operators. Let's head to the VS Code and start coding. We have created a basic index.html file. We are using RxJS version 7 and have created an empty JavaScript file. The same is referred in here. For styling, we are using Tailwind CSS. In the browser, if you hit refresh, you'll see nothing in the console. Let me close this. We'll start with a very basic example and then probably move to the next one. So we'll first try by learning catchError, right? The catchError operator, as the name suggests, catches the error occurring in an observable stream. Then it depends on you. You can either throw that error or return an observable based on what you need. Let's code the first example to understand what I mean by this. We'll start by creating an observable. Let's call it as number. And let me import observable from RxJS. It will also increase the font size better. We can write new observable subscriber. Then we can emit values from 1 to 5. Dot next 1. We can just copy paste it 5 times. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now let's create our observer. Observer. Log the next notification. Console.log next. In similar way, we'll log the error as well. And finally, complete notification. It doesn't accept any value. So we'll just have it as, let's say, completed. Right. Next, what we need is the subscription mechanism. So observable.subscribe, passing the observer. Hit save. Now, as we expect, we'll get the next notification for 1 to 5. So now let's have our observable throw some error. So after 3, what I'll do is subscriber dot error. Let's say something went wrong. Hit save. Now, as we expect, after the first 3 values, we have our error notification. Now, as expected, we get the error notification. Now, let's say that we do not want the string that something went wrong. Rather, we want a better format, maybe a format that we're using in our application for an error message, and the same we want to follow. For that, we can use catchError. So what we can do here is, before we subscribe, we'll use .pipe catchError. For that, let me import catchError from RxJS. Okay. Now, this example is just to make you understand how to use catchError, right? How you can throw an error from this block or how you can return an observable. Okay. So do keep that in mind. So inside catchError, it will receive the error, whatever is being thrown from here. It will be caught here. Let me just do a console log so that we get an idea. catchError, that's the error received. We'll just have the log statement. And remember, we said that there are 2 ways. Either you return an observable or throw the error. Now, based on what you use, there are different responses to it. Okay. Let us first try with throwing an error from the catchError. So what we'll use is throw error creation operator. Now this also lives inside RxJS. So let us import that. Throw error. Now we want to send it in a format, right? So we'll say error code, let's say 0, error message, whatever is returned from there. Okay. We've written the error message. We just need to return from this block. So that's it. What we did here was, whenever you're observable through this error, catchError will catch it. Okay, this error will be received here, and using this error, we are constructing a more kind of a formatted error message and returning the same using throw error. Now, if you hit save, you can see the behavior. The error notification still gets invoked. This is the one, but this time is the modified error object. As you can see, the catchError got the error thrown from here. So before it reaches the error notification in your observer, it will first reach the catchError block, wherein you can transform or format the error object or do whatever you want to do with that error based on your requirement. Okay, this was throwing the error inside catchError. Next, let us return an observable. Instead of this, we'll just comment it out. We'll use return of 0. So what I'm trying to do here, or maybe -1. So herein we have all the numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. What I'm telling catchError by returning this observable is that I don't want to throw an error. So by doing this, error notification won't be invoked. Rather, the next notification will be invoked. Along with the next notification, complete notification will also get invoked. Let's try that. Hit save. Did we did something wrong? Okay. Off is not imported. Let me import off operator. Let's hit save. Great. As you can see, the first 3 values, 1, 2, and 3. Then we had this error. catchError got the error thrown from there. And then the next notification was invoked. Finally, the complete one. So that's the difference when you throw an error from the catch block or you return an observable. When you throw an error, the error notification will get invoked. And when you return an observable, as in this case, the next notification will be invoked and immediately will be the complete notification. In both the cases, the observable will terminate. That's also a vital thing to note. Now let's try out a different example. I'll just comment these out. Only commenting this is enough. Great. So our console is clean. For this example, we are going to make an API request. The sample API that we'll use looks something like this. Const API. This API basically will help us to query products based on the provided input. Now, to show you an example, what I'll do here is, let's say I'm using the same string, and in q equals to, we'll say iPhone. If you do that, you will return a JSON response that consists of the products and some of the metadata information. Cool. So let's close this. We'll also have an input text box that will accept input from the user, and basing on the entered product name, we'll use this URL to fetch the product. Okay. So let's start by creating the input text box. We'll head to the index.html file. In here, we'll add input, type as text. Let's give it an ID so that we can access it. Input box, search, then a placeholder. Let's write it, enter product name, and finally some class name, and this is just for Tailwind CSS. Hit save. Great. We have the input box here. We can close this one now. Now let's add a listener so that whenever the user enters any character in the input box, we can listen for it. We'll use the from event creation operator. So let's start by importing it. From event. Const. Let's say search observable equals to from event. And what is the target? Is the input element. Input element equals document dot get element by ID, and the ID is input box search. Okay. Inside from event, we'll pass the target element. And then, which is the event we want to listen for? It's key up. We'll pass the same in here. Let us use the same observer. We'll just reuse it, copy paste it here. And finally, the subscription mechanism. So observable dot subscribe observer. Hit save. Okay, I'm maybe using it in some other file. Let me just rename it. I'll paste it here. Hit save. Awesome. Now if I enter the text, let's say hello. So now we are seeing the entire event object. That's we don't need. What we need is only the value. So in here, we'll use dot pipe. We'll use the map operator. Let me import that. Map. We get the event object, but what we need is event.target.value. Hit save. Now if we enter hello, we can see the value only. Great. So we are only receiving the values, not the entire event object. Next, what we need is for each of these values, we need to make an API request. So basically, we need to call this API and get the product information. For that, we'll be using Ajax, isn't it? So we'll start by importing it. First, Ajax equals to RxJS.Ajax. Next, since it's an inner observable, right? What we need is a flattening operator. Which one you think will be suitable for us? Is the switch map operator, because what we need is the request to be made only for the most recent entry, right? What I meant is if you type iPhone here, right, we want the request to be made for the most recent search query, not for the previous one. If there are any existing previous inner observables or requests, please cancel that. And for that reason, switch map works the best. So we'll import the same. And in here, after we have received our query string, we'll use switch map. It will receive the value. Let me call it as search query, not so sure. And then we'll invoke our API request. So ajax.getJSON will pass the API. Finally, the search query. Right? Hit save. One other enhancement that we can do here is use debounce time. So that whenever the user pauses for a certain millisecond, let's say 500, then only we process further. Let me import that. After switch map, let me add debounce time. Hit save. And let me scroll down. Great. Now if I type iPhone here, okay, we get the products associated with this keyword. Great. It works, right? But this is the happy part, and it's very certain that sometimes the API may fail because of any issues. Maybe the server is down or there's an internet connection issue. There can be a number of issues because of which your API fails. And our job as developers is to handle it gracefully. So let us introduce some error. What we'll do is in the network, let me pull it a bit up so that we can see all the network requests being made. Okay. So this is the URL that gets invoked, and this one is particularly for the iPhone text we entered. What I will do is I'll block this URL. So now when we enter iPhone, the request will not be initiated. Okay. Let me close it. Let us do a refresh as well. And head to the console. Great. If you type TV here, we'll get the output, isn't it? Now, if I type iPhone, we saw that request was blocked by DevTools and the error notification gets invoked, right? Now, the problem here is if I remove this and type TV again, we're not going to receive any kind of notification, isn't it? because after the error notification was invoked, the stream was terminated or the observer were unsubscribed. Now we don't want that, right? Even though an error occurred with the API, we still want the user to be able to search for products, right? We don't want to block the user. To help us with that, we can use catchError. As we learned earlier, we can use catchError to return an observable, isn't it? So that the error notification won't be invoked. We can just send an empty product array that will resolve the problem. But we'll run into another issue. Though the catchError will invoke the next notification, it will also complete the observable, isn't it? We have a way though to resolve that as well. Let's start by adding catchError. So in here, after switch map, we'll write catchError. We'll receive the error. Maybe you can also use tab operator here and log it to your logger module. But for now, we'll just return an observable. Return of. Let us return in a way similar to the success API. So it has products. We'll send it as empty array. Now total 0. Right. Skip 0, limit 0. Ideally these two should do. Hit save. Now if I type TV here, we'll get the response. And if we type iPhone here, we can see that the request was blocked. The next notification was invoked, right? But immediately the complete notification. So now again, if I type anything, our observable is not going to listen for it. So we see no error emitted, but the complete notification did. And how did we resolve that? Now to fix this, what we need to do is just change the position of the catch error. Now, which stream in here you think actually had the error or threw the error? It's the ajax.getJSON, isn't it? When we made the API request, it failed. So basically, this is the observable that is throwing that error. So instead of placing the catch error outside for the source observable, we can just move it. Let me remove it from here and add it to the pipe method for the Ajax request. So we can add it in here. Now if we hit save, let me also just log that the error occurred. Console.log error occurred. Now hit save. Let us first try the happy path. TV works fine. Then we'll use iPhone. As we see, the request was blocked. The catch error gets invoked. Then we have the next notification. Now let us again tap TV here. You can see it works fine, right? It doesn't stop the entire observable. By placing the catch error in here, we handle errors specific to the ajax.getJSON request. This means that the errors related to the HTTP request are caught and handled directly in the context of this specific request. And when the API fails, we gracefully handle it without affecting the entire stream. So do note that the placement of the catch error is very important. Lastly, let's learn about retry. We'll start by importing it. Now, retry can help in resubscribing to an observable whenever an error occurs, just like in this case. It may so happen that an API that failed may succeed if we did a retry. Maybe there was a network issue, so doing a retry works. In our case, it won't work because we are blocking it manually, right? But that's the reason why you use retry. If an observable threw an error, you want to retry with the hope that it may succeed if we retry a couple of more times. So before the catch error, here we need to add retry. So it accepts a number saying that how many times you want to retry if it fails. We'll say 2 times. So if we add retry 2 here, we are saying that even though the API failed, can you please retry a couple of times in case if it passes, right? Hit save. I'll just move it a bit up. Now if I type TV, it will work fine because there's the happy path and no error will occur. If I type iPhone, You can see the request was requested for additional times also, right? This was the first request and then twice more. If after retrying twice it still failed, then our catch error will get invoked and following which the next notification. Again, I can add smartphone here and it will work just fine. That's all about catch error and retry. Major pointer about catch error is the placement. Make sure that you place the catch error operator correctly. Just like the Zynga pieces, placing of the wooden block is crucial, isn't it? That's it for this video. Hope you were able to learn something new. Meet you in the next one. Until then, happy coding.